Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a review on the Nankang CR1, or as they're known now, CRS. So I've been driving these tires for about a year now, running a 245 rear and a 225 front for my current track setup. One of the biggest reasons anyone uses this tire, or why I use this tire, is because of the size I just mentioned, 245. So 245s are not very common in a 15-inch wheel. The only other one that I know of in the 200 treadwear category is the Falcon RT660, which I'll be doing a review on also later. But I switched to these tires mainly because of that tire size on a 15x9 square setup. So we have the front a little bit stretched with a 225 and the rear I'm running a 245. So anyways, let's jump into the objective observations. Previously to this setup, I was running on Advan AO52s, 205 front and 225 rear on a 15x8. And as far as times, this is faster, and I think that's mainly due to the width of the tires themselves and also the aspect ratio, which is a lot shorter than the AO52s. Unfortunately, I don't have the AO52s with me, but this is a 40 series tire, and the AO52s are a 50 series, and they look like balloons on my car. I don't know if you guys remembered, but they were very tall. So this essentially kind of changed the, I guess you could call it, final drive of my MRS. And as you guys know, on the MRS, we're really lacking torque, especially with the 2ZZ. So having a shorter diameter tire really helped me with acceleration, and it really felt like the car was a lot more eager to accelerate coming out of the corners while having that 245 footprint for grip. So those are the objective differences that I noticed. If you guys want to know more about times and stuff, I know there are articles on Grassroots Motorsports and stuff like that. I think as far as outright speed, the AO52 might be faster, but due to the tire selection and availability in my case, these are faster because these are bigger, but AO52s don't come in 245 15s. So next, with that said, let's jump into the way this tire activates and heats up through the heat cycle. So to reach peak grip, in my experience, it takes about maybe a lap in a normal lapping session for this tire to get up to temperature. It could probably heat up if you scrub them in really well on that opening warm-up lap, and then after that it's pretty much up to temp. Unlike AO52s or RE71s, I don't think this is so much of a great autocross tire compared to those two, but this one really activates after a lap. But with that trade-off, I think this tire does last a lot longer than AO52 or RE71 if you're trying to lap. During a 20-minute session, I didn't really notice any noticeable drop-off. I guess my car is also only like 2,100 pounds, so that you might have to take that into account if you're considering this for a heavier car. But as far as comparison between the AO52 and RE71, I do find that these tires last a little bit longer. Next up, as far as tire life and wear, compared to the AO52, these do last longer in my observation and experience. These tires have been driven over a year now, and if you guys watch my channel, that's pretty much whatever I've been doing on the channel. So we got track days, we did on-grid time attack, we drove this without a wing and things like that. So these tires look the same. The grip has overall been really good, and I don't really feel that there's been much of a drop-off since when I picked them up and up to now. And it's been a year, and we've been driving this pretty hard. You guys have watched my videos. We'll get sideways and light them up a bit. But as far as like tire degradation and life, as far as like the feel, these tires seem to last a lot longer than the AO52s. I'm going to come in here close with the camera. It doesn't have any like tearing as much as I noticed, or like delamination as far as like RT660 and AO52. You can see the wear is pretty even on these tires. On my MRS, I'm running -3 front and -4 rear camber, and these are the rear tires that we're looking at right now. So as far as tire life, I think they are better than the AO52, and we're going to find out next by measuring the actual stiffness of the tire. And we'll be comparing with the same tool that I used in my previous AO52 review, which you guys can check out in the link below. Okay, so let's take some readings with the durometer here to see how medium rare these tires are. So let's start with the outside shoulder. So it looks like we're at around 65. In the middle, there's not really a center band, but we're just going to go here around 60. And then here on the inside, 69. Nice. Okay, so now that we've taken those readings, we're going to jump into the subjective observations that I have from driving this tire. A lot of the objective stuff are done by professionals better than me, but I can give you guys my experience as far as a subjective feel, I guess. So As far as response, we're going to start with response. I do feel like the Nankang CR1s are more responsive than the AO52s as far as feel. I think that's probably due to the stiffness of the tire as well as the actual aspect ratio. Again, these are a lot shorter and they have less of a sidewall, so less flex, and you can feel that while driving the tire. It does feel a lot crispier than the AO52, and I think the grip level as far as feel is very similar to the AO52. As far as the progressiveness of the tire, and by progressiveness I mean like when you put it into a slip angle, like how fast does the tire lose grip? Like, is it snappy or is it easy to control? So as far as progressiveness with the Nankang CR1, I do feel like they're pretty progressive and easy to control. I feel like when you lose grip, either under or oversteer, it's really predictable and it's giving you a warning. I know what it's going to do, and the tire communicates well with me as far as grip feel and progressiveness, and as far as like steering feel and things like that. It's definitely more easy to understand than an AO52, where the AO52 is a little bit mushier. So I think what's good is this is, I guess as far as feel from what I've observed, is probably between the old RE71 and the AO52. This is in between. The RE71 is still better feel in my opinion as far as progressiveness and crispness of turn-in, but this is a nice in between those two tires, the AO52 and RE71, which is discontinued now. As far as acceleration and braking stability, I think that the 245 footprint on a 15 really helps my MRS and other low-powered cars put down power while accelerating quickly. Being a shorter tire and wide, it really puts down a larger footprint and helps the car accelerate quicker, being shorter than all the other tires I've driven. This is a 40 series again, and you guys can see in my track videos that I hit 5th gear in a lot of sections as opposed to 4th gear in my other setups. So as far as acceleration, this is definitely faster. As far as brake stability, these tires are pretty stable on brakes. I haven't had any issues there. You can get on the brake pedal pretty hard. I haven't had any issues with that as far as braking and stability, so overall good. How are these tires on the street? I've driven these tires on the street. As far as street stuff, I'm sure you guys are probably wondering about like noise and picking up stuff. So these tires are really sticky. They'll pick up everything and fling rocks all over your car. As far as noise, they are a little bit louder than the AO52s, I think probably because they are stiffer. Maybe a little bit quieter than the RE71. Definitely not as loud as like an RSRR or something like that. They don't have as much of a wheel bearing sound as those other tires, but they are loud, of course. They are racing tires and a little louder than the AO52. As far as street use, I guess also, and use in the rain. So as you guys know, I'm in a region that has 4 seasons and we have a lot of rain. I've driven this in the rain and I will say that they're pretty terrible. So I don't recommend. This is probably one of the first tires as far as 200 treadwear where I felt like it's a little bit sketchy in the rain. AO52s are awesome. RE71 is awesome in the rain. I've never had an issue with like hydroplaning and stuff like that. But once you start getting up to like 80 miles per hour with these in the rain, it can get pretty skittish. So I do not recommend them at all in the rain. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that review and found it insightful. Again, there's more objective information on like grassroots motorsports and stuff, but I hope this was overall helpful as far as making a selection for your tires.